And we are back for another edition of On the Icebox with Iceberg Bricks. My guest tonight is Transit Bricks, but if you know him or not, he's making a storm by Lego. Um, and so definitely check him out on Instagram, is where I found him. And he's doing something special with Legos. Now, when I look at his mocks, I look at Shining Time Station or Mr. Rogers because Transit Bricks is into transit, as you can see. So we'll run into some locomotives, some buses, some old-time coaches, quite a variety of mocks that Transit Bricks is going to show us today. So without further ado, guys, meet my new friend, Transit Bricks.
Going on.
Hello.
Thank you so much for having me out today.
It's a pleasure having you on, man. I was trying to I reached back to you like about a month ago, man, and I know schedules bouncing forth, but I appreciate the patience, man, because I was impatient trying to hurry up and get you on the show. I was excited.
I get excited about these things too. I like that my schedule is so scattered, but I'm very glad we're finally doing this. So thank you.
Yeah. Yes, and you got quite a collection behind you there, and we will definitely get into that.
Yeah, I thought I would sit right in front of it. I thought it would look appropriate for the conversation.
Okay. What is it that you do? Because I guess that your love for Legos is showing through the transit. So what is it that you do?
Well, I mean that's a big question. What does I do with these? You mean like what is Transit Bricks? I'll tell you that.
Yes, tell us. Yes, tell us that.
Essentially, what I've been doing is teaching the history of Toronto's public transit using these Lego replicas I've created. So I actually tour these around to nursing homes, retirement homes, and museums where I do actual presentations. I have a whole PowerPoint of pictures of the real things, and these things I always bring it on a table in front of me to let people come up and take a look. And to me, it's really about educating the public on the importance of public transit. I find that these days, some people know, but I find the mass majority of people just kind of complain all the time about public transit. And unfortunately, the TTC gets a lot of hate, and I really feel like it's not their fault. At the same time, people have completely forgotten the history. They don't know where we've come from. And I really think that, like, how can you know where we are if you don't know where we've come from?
Right.
So, to me, there's an important lesson to teach. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay.
Question.
Okay. So tell us how did you get into Lego?
Well, it is my dad's fault, actually. Growing up, probably, when I was young, me and my brother, my dad bought us lots of Lego. In fact, because I knew you were going to ask that question, I actually brought some of the original sets I got in the 1990s.
Okay.
The Adventures, the little hot air balloon.
Okay.
I've got the rocket ship, complete with detachable. Oh,
right.
Actually, you get the idea. I've got Town Divers set from 1997, one of my original.
I remember that.
And the last one, this big blimp.
Zeppelin. Oh yeah. Okay. Man, a lot of people looking for those sets, man. Don't let them sets ever go, man. Don't ever let them go.
Yeah, so it's basically it. You know what? My dad bought me lots of Lego when I was a kid, and we would build it together, and we had a lot of fun. And that's how it started for me.
Okay. So to me, it sounded like you definitely had a great upbringing, man. Anytime you could bring Lego into the house and share it with the family, that's awesome, man. I think because it's good for bonding time. And I try to pass it down to mine. What sound like you're living your aspirations, but what are your Lego aspirations? What's next, and what's next over the horizon for you?
Well, you know what? I honestly believe I could take this pretty far. I want to educate many more people. I find right now I've been focusing on Toronto because I live in Toronto. I love Toronto. I've been focusing on Toronto transit, but I want to take this worldwide eventually. I'd love to start building other cities' public transit vehicles out of Lego and teaching their histories. I guess I really want to make a living doing this. It should pay for itself. I don't want to invest all this money in Lego and just go broke. You know, like it needs to sustain itself so that I can go worldwide with this. But that's what I really like to do. Because I don't know if you. So my website, it's toronto.transitbricks.com. So Transit brands, Toronto is just a sub brand because I want to take it to New York Transit Bricks, London Transit Bricks, Hong Kong Transit. Every major city in the world has public transit. So so yeah, that's it.
Okay, all right. That's you still probably got to be young because you still have a lot of ambition. I see. I remember once I had that ambition myself. You know, it's slowly dying. It's slowly dying, but you got a lot of ambition, man, and that's good, man. And you know, I hope you succeed, and I know that you will. I know that you will because you keep your ambition and you keeping the dream alive. You know, when it's no fun no more, that's when we quit. So.
Fair enough.
So how would you describe your work that you do with Lego? How do you describe that?
Well, I guess I'm kind of trying to recreate a lot of these historical vehicles accurately. So I'm not really trying to be a master Lego builder. I'm more on recreating real vehicles that have been lost to time. So as you can see behind me, I've got a lot of like 1800s vehicles and stuff like that. Now, I've actually started experimenting with 3D printing because you can't build everything with Lego. Now, I guess a master Lego builder would never do 3D printing because they would consider that cheating. They'd be like, oh, you don't do that. Just use real Lego parts.
Right.
I'm not too concerned with that. You know, I'm okay with 3D printing, you know, new Lego parts because my goal is to accurately recreate these vehicles.
Okay.
That's kind of my building style.
Right. That's what's important. It is. So tell me about do you belong to any, you know, lugs or like Lego groups or Lego organizations?
Only on like Facebook groups. I actually haven't joined any in the city yet. I don't really know of any in the city. I find I've been more focused on sort of doing this whole teaching history with these things. I could be interested in joining other Lego groups, but for the time being, I'm really more focused on joining, like, you know, I joined the Canadian Transit Heritage Foundation recently. So that's not Lego at all, that's transit. I'm more bringing my Lego to the transit community. If that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So tell us what's unique about your building process. I know that you said you would like to mix it up with a little bit of Lego and 3D printing. Tell us what's unique, what separates you from the regular Lego builder. Not so much of a master build, but a regular Lego builder.
Well, I'd say that regular Lego builders use instructions, right? Either you buy kits, those come with instructions, or I've noticed a lot of people will design their vehicles ahead of time, or their creations, sorry, in like there's programs for making instructions, right? And then they get the parts. I'm an improviser. I don't have instructions for any of these because I kind of just like, I'm not sure where I want to take them, so I kind of just improvise the builds. So I'm actually a lot more disorganized than a lot of master builders. Maybe that's what's unique about me. I'm kind of all over the place. I jump from different vehicles. Yeah, that's it, I'd say.
Okay. All right. Do you build your Legos with any significant others, little brothers, fathers, mothers, anybody?
At this point, no. I mean, I live by myself. You know, my family loves what I do, but this has been me. I've been on my own, building all these different models. I've been at it for 2 years now, so it's taken a little bit of time.
Okay.
But
yeah. So we know that you have other hobbies outside of Lego, which is transit. How did somebody young as you get into the love of transit, and not only that, but be a historian of transit?
Well, I'll start by saying I actually have more hobbies than just that. I'm really into photography and video editing. But
Okay. Okay.
I've actually turned those into freelance businesses in the last 2 years. But I've actually been making like videos, like home movie short films. For the past 10 years now, I've been doing that as a hobby. So that actually came first. Transit is actually pretty new to me. Out of all the stuff I do, Lego, videos, photos, transit is the newest. January 2015, I got into it. Kind of long story short, I took an interest in looking at vintage photos of old Toronto from like the 1800s. Toronto Archives has an amazing collection. And I stumbled across photos of Toronto used to have horse-drawn streetcars. And that fascinated me because I had no idea that was a thing. And it got me curious, well, what else is in our transit history that I've never heard of? So I started doing my research, and I actually realized there was so much that I had no idea about. And that really sparked my interest in transit because I grew up in Toronto, and we've always had streetcars and buses and subways, and I actually never cared about them. They were whatever to me. But once I discovered that there was so much in the past that had been forgotten, that really sucked me in, and especially the horse-drawn streetcar, because as I did my research, I found like it's been forgotten. Nobody in the city really knows about that. There are no color photos. You have to really dig to find these things, these old photos.
Okay.
And I kind of saw it as an opportunity. Well, I could build one out of Lego, and then I could tell people, hey, look, we had horse-drawn streetcars. It's hard to say why I really wanted to do that. Maybe it's just I'm a creative person. I'm not really sure why I was so determined to do this. That's really where it started for me. I just realized, hey, the history's been forgotten. I really want to tell people. And it's honestly just been possible since then.
Okay. All right. Yeah, man, you definitely, I definitely looked at your website, and I'll have that at the end of the slide so people can find you because they need to know. A young historian, you're a rare breed, man. You're definitely a rare breed, man. It's hard getting young people to know about the past, and you definitely, take the extra effort to do that. And then I think that the idea of using Lego as a tool to introduce that is innovative.
Thank you. I'm glad you do.
So is this whole thing therapeutic for you? I mean, is this your breath of fresh air?
It absolutely is. And it's actually because of me taking these things out to events and teaching people the history. I've actually met so many amazing people thanks to this hobby. It's becoming a business of mine. Like museums would call me up and say, hey, can you bring your Lego exhibit to our event? And I'd say, absolutely. And because of that, I get to go to the events. I'm a part of it. I meet all the other people who have displays. I meet all the guests. And that to me is amazing. I've met so many people. The TTC invites me to their events. I've like hung out with the CEO a bunch of times. It's amazing to the people I've met thanks to my Lego creations. Like you would never think that, but that to me is so important. Like I can't stop doing this because I keep getting invited to these cool events, and it's helped my social skills. I find like I've really improved as a person just going to all these events. So yes, very therapeutic for me.
Okay, all right. Now, has your love for Lego, I guess through the motor of transit bricks, help you persevere through a difficult situation? Do you care to share?
Yeah, you know what? That is in a way how this kind of started for me. That back in 2014, I'll be real here. I was very depressed in 2014. And I think a lot of that was I didn't have any life goals. I didn't know where I was going. I was kind of just, I think a lot of people just kind of wander through life, don't really know where they're going. And that was hitting hard, to be honest with you. At the turn of 2014, 2015, I got into freelance, and I kind of realized that I could actually I could really do what I wanted with my life. And kind of at the same time that I had discovered, horse-drawn streetcars and realized, well, I could teach, really, do all this stuff. That it really pulled me out of that. I find I'm a very happy person now because I'm so preoccupied with pursuing this dream. And to me, that that's really important to me.
Okay.
That it helped me.
Yeah, yeah, that's good, man. That's good, man. You know, it's like you said, in a situation like that, it's tough to bounce back, and it takes character to bounce back and find a vehicle to help us get through. And you know, you've done that. You know, you definitely done that.
Yeah.
So through your vehicle of transit bricks, what was your most difficult project?
Well, it's hard to say. I guess it's all been a bit of a challenge. It's all kind of like a learning experience for me.
Hmm.
I don't know. It's hard to say. There's not one real project. I mean, like, it took me a long time before I realized that 3D printing would actually help me finish certain models or make them look better.
Hmm.
A long time to realize just making postcards and selling them at shops would be a good idea. So the biggest challenge is kind of overcoming. It's like it was for me to kind of realize the things I could do with this. Really, kind of
Hmm.
opening my mind and realizing the possibilities. That's been the challenge.
Okay.
Not so much building any of these Lego models. It's more about me as a person opening my mind and realizing this is what I could do with this. You know, that
Right.
makes
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, so how important, and you have your posts up on Instagram and you have the website, but how important is the Lego AFOL community, which is, you know, the adult fanatic of Lego, fan of Lego community to what you do?
What do you mean? How important is what?
How important is the Lego community to Transit Bricks?
Well, I do get a lot of inspiration from the Lego community. I mean, I do look at what other people are doing to kind of give me
Hmm.
ideas of what's possible. Um, Obviously, I don't
Hmm.
really want to steal any ideas, but I do see what other people are doing, and it does kind
Hmm.
of inspire me. And sometimes I'll see kind of what's on the market. Like for example, I'll see I joined the Lego train enthusiast Facebook group, and
Okay.
that there's actually like there's businesses selling like custom train wheels and
Hmm.
like lights for Lego models and stuff.
Hmm.
And so I purchased some of them, and they've improved my models. So kind of
Okay.
by being in the community, it shows me well what the possibilities are with Lego, and that's really
Okay.
important.
Okay. Out of all your mocks of all the transit models that you have made, which one are you most satisfied with?
Well, I'm satisfied with a bunch of them, but I'll
Hmm.
pick two for the sake of your interview.
Okay.
Um, Out of all of them, I'm really the happiest with these two buses.
Okay.
So I've got a horse-drawn bus from 1849
Okay.
and a motor coach from 1922.
Okay.
And I don't know, just something about them. Like I'm just really happy with how they look. You know, I find they're very complete. There's not too much I want to fix.
Right.
You know that the community really loves like my modern streetcars, but
Hmm.
they're still not perfect. There's a lot of fixing up I could do with them.
Hmm.
But these two are really my favorite, I think.
Okay. Okay. All right. They look good too. They do. They do. I'll tell you something after the show too, because I don't want nobody to steal your ideas. But after post show, I'll talk to you for a bit. Um,
Yeah, man. No,
so one more question before we go to the PowerPoint. Can you what can you tell us? What was your most memorable interaction you had with someone regarding, I say Lego hobby? Give me Lego hobby and transit bricks. Tell us the most memorable interaction you had with somebody with both.
okay. Well, this example, it sort of happened twice, but essentially at one of the retirement home presentations I was giving, this was September of 2017.
Hmm.
You know, it was a 1 hour presentation. I had the whole PowerPoint. I had lots of videos. I had these things out, and at the end, um, this one old lady came up with her husband, and she was actually completely blind.
Okay.
So she couldn't see anything that had showed them the entire presentation, but she sat through it. And she
Hmm.
said she was curious about my Legos and she wanted to touch them. I was like, well, absolutely. So I let her touch different Lego models and I was telling her, you know, what parts she was touching.
Hmm.
And that really inspired me, and it kind of made me realize, well, I could teach this stuff to blind people too,
Mm-hmm.
using my leg, because she sat through this presentation and couldn't see a thing, and was still curious. And that, to me, that was really something for me. In fact, I do actually have a few upcoming presentations. The Canadian National Institute for the Blind wants me to teach blind children
Mm-hmm.
transit history in my Lego models, and
Okay.
that to me, yeah, that to me was really meaningful.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely making waves in the community. And that's what it's all about. You know, you're definitely sharing and your love to others. And I mean that's that's you're definitely leaving your legacy down before you even turn 40 or even 50, I should say. Very awesome. Hey, folks, we're in the second half of On the Ice Box with Iceberg Bricks. Our guest tonight is Transit Bricks from Canada. And so now we look to the PowerPoint presentation. So we're going to go look into that. All right, here we go. All right. All right, so we got you here, man. I think what you do, at being a transit historian and then actually getting into the character, like wearing this top hat and wearing the suit with the vest, and then you probably got the watch with the chain on it too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that this is awesome. This is really awesome because what it tells you is that not only you care about the Lego models that you do, but you also care about getting the message out. So you dress up in the character to getting this telling people history. It's hard getting the community or even youth alone to sit in a history class, but yet you're getting the message out by just being in character.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, I've just had so much fun with this. That's
Mm-hmm.
really what this has come down to. It's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, let's see what you got.
All right. So tell us about this picture here. Tell us about I guess its very first existence.
Yeah, this is the very first sort of custom model I came up with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the brand of Transit Bricks. Now, Transit Bricks was not around when I did this,
Mm-hmm.
but that's when I first discovered horse-drawn streetcars. This was the first Lego creation I built.
Okay.
And actually, I remember I showed this to a friend. This was back in January 2015 when I built this, and he said, "That's so cool. You should do the whole evolution, Trevor, from that to the new streetcars." I'm like, you know what? That's a good idea. And I sure showed him. I did it.
Oh. Oh, awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, definitely good work. And what I find it to be inspiration, even doing these little segments, is that I love to go back to that first picture that was posted or that first build that was posted, because then, the success that we had along the way, we remember where we came from, and that we can use that as inspiration to moving forward.
Yeah, well, this photo is where it started.
Yeah, definitely. Now I love this here. This is obviously your train yard or your transit yard here, and then you got the old school roller coaster in the back there. So you kind of incorporate into your hobbies, your photography and your Lego hobby as well.
Well, yes, but that's so I didn't take that photo in the background. That's actually
Okay.
an archival photo. So what this is here is supposed to be is a transit exhibit at the CNE. CNE is a annual event in Toronto. It's like a big fair, so it has roller coasters, it has rides, and fair actually goes right back to the 1880s in Toronto.
Right.
And through decades, our public transit system, the TTC, would do exhibits with its old vehicles. So the four in this photo, the real versions of these vehicles were actually on display at this fair throughout the decades. So that's what I'm recreating here, is these exhibits at the CNE, the National Exhibition.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the one on the left there is like a rebuild version of the horse-drawn streetcar. So the previous picture you showed my first model. Well, I ended up rebuilding it, and that's the one there on the left.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah. All right. So show us what we have here on the right here.
So this is actually a picture of my display. I was invited to down to the TTC's streetcar barns at Leslie's on Leslie Streets. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a picture of the table, but in here I've got Toronto's newest streetcar, the long red one. I've got a bunch
Mm-hmm.
of horse-drawn ones. I've got a Peter Witt streetcar and a bus. And I really like this photo. It looks very nice from this angle.
Yeah, yeah, because you can look down, you can actually see a lot of detail by looking down on the train yard you got here. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So tell us about this photo right here.
Okay, that is my first. That was actually my first nursing home presentation
Mm-hmm.
at Christie Gardens. So that was January of 2017. That it
Mm-hmm.
was the first time I actually did a presentation. In
Okay.
2016, I did displays where I brought these Legos out to events, but I
Mm-hmm.
had never actually done a presentation with an audience where I actually told them the history. And so,
Okay.
u- using just these Lego models, I explained the history to the old folks that were sitting around me in this room here.
Okay. Okay. Very impressive. Very impressive. All right. So it looks like you're at another event. Tell us about the event that you're at here.
Yeah. So this is actually my second public display. So this is actually going back to 2016. June 2016, I was invited to the T Bus Garage. They were having a bus rodeo for their
Mm-hmm.
Family Day event. Now that man next to me, that was the CEO, Andy Byford.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I saw him wandering on the event, and I kind of called him over and asked for a photo. So yeah, we're
Mm-hmm.
standing behind my exhibit here, and
Okay.
I've met him a bunch of times, and he's a fan of what I'm doing. So
Awesome.
he's particularly a fan. I've been advocating for a Toronto Transit Museum, and he fully supports that idea.
Oh yeah, yeah, awesome, man. I mean, and that's what you. I mean, you're definitely networking, and that's the type of networking that I hope you continue to do, because you'll see yourself with more success. Guys like that, see the passion that you're doing. It makes them look good. You look good, and so they're more apt to help you because you have the same common interest as them. And so,
Yeah,
you're definitely making the connections, man. Keep the good work up, man. It's look like you're making waves, man.
thank you.
All right. Tell us about this model you have here. Number third, is it 3777 327?
Yeah, number 327. So this picture
Yeah.
was actually fall 2016. My
Mm-hmm.
display, it was at a museum in High Park, which is a large park in Toronto. So number
Mm-hmm.
327, all these models are based off vehicles. So there's actually a museum outside of Toronto that has the full-sized version of number 327.
Mm-hmm.
It operates around their private property, so you could go there and ride it.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like this model. It's a very unique style of streetcar. It's called an open bench car.
Okay.
It had no walls because it was used for summer operations, so the wind or the fresh air comes straight through the car
Mm-hmm.
and keep the passengers cool because they didn't have air conditioning in those days.
Okay.
This
Okay.
was 1893 style of streetcar.
Ah. Okay.
And
Okay.
you notice on the front of there, there's kind of this little fence thing underneath the front dash. Well,
Mm-hmm.
those were known as people catchers because in the 1890s there were automobiles were still brand new, so people walked on the street, and if they stepped out in front of this moving streetcar, that catcher would knock them off their feet and catch them, instead of running them over.
Ah, pretty slick. Yeah, that's pretty slick, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Ah. Huh. Good story. Good story. So it looks like you got a little mayhem in your town here. What's
Yeah.
going on?
So this picture is actually a part of a series of photos that tell a story. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially, the long story short is that back in 1884, streetcars were horse-drawn in Toronto. Like all transit was horse-drawn. And in 1884, at the Toronto Industrial Exhibition,
Mm-hmm.
a new form of transit was unveiled, an electric railway. and everyone in Toronto was excited about this electrical railway, except the horses. The horses were outraged when they realized they were going to lose their jobs to these electrical railways. And they were outraged, and they trashed the exhibition, and they overthrew transit. And that's what you're seeing in this photo. This is their response when they realize they're going to lose their
Oh,
jobs.
wow. Yeah. Oh, that's you depicted that real well. You depicted that real well. That's good. That's good. Yeah.
And yeah, so
right.
They overthrew transit. They captured some of the transit workers and forced them to pull the streetcars around with the horses in them. As you can see, even the horse is wearing a top hat.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how the horses responded to when they realized they're going to lose their jobs. They took over public transit.
Right. They turned the tables over, huh? All right. Yeah. All right.
Good. So this is actually kind of this is the ending of that story. That essentially the city council obviously did not approve of these horses taking over public transit. So they talked to the horses and convinced them that if they let transit go, they will get unlimited rides on these electric streetcars forever, and a lot of hay as severance for their jobs. So this photo shows all the horses riding these open electric streetcars.
Okay. Good show. Yeah. All right. Here we have another slide here.
Yeah, this picture is of me. This would be summer 2016. I did an exhibit at a local farmer's market, actually. I was being pretty experimental, so I thought I'll try out a farmer's market. So I did a table display here. I've got the electric streetcar that's kind of coming around the corner there with the wire on the roof. That one was motorized, so it was driving around the table. And this photo was actually taken by like a local news reporter. She gave me this photo afterwards. But I'm actually holding a horse in the photo, a little Lego horse.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. So tell us about the omnibus line.
Yeah. So this would be Toronto's first bus line. Williams Omnibus Line began public transit in Toronto in 1849. So the man with the white hair is Henry Burt Williams, and the horse is his business associate, Harry the Horse. No, wait, I think I screwed that up. Henry Burt Williams and Harry the Horse. There we go. And that's his omnibus. So that's really what Toronto's first bus looked like, and this is just my Lego rendition of it.
Okay.
And so the word omnibus actually so bus is short for omnibus. Omnibus is a Latin word which means for everybody because it was public transit. So it's like Williams is everybody's line. Everybody can ride this bus. It's public transit.
I didn't know that, man. You schooled me up on something. I didn't know. I didn't even know, man. Wow. Okay. All right. All right, we had you have a few more your bus lines here.
Yeah, so Mr. Williams's omnibus line was such a huge success that the following year in 1850, he started building these larger omnibuses that you see on the left here. These could carry up to 10 passengers versus the smaller buses which could only carry 6. And you can see there's sort of a whip up on the roof there, and that's where the driver would sit, is up on the roof, which would actually make for more space in the interior for more paying passengers.
Oh, okay. All right. Look like you got snowed in up there in Canada, huh?
Yeah, well, that's pretty typical Canadian weather for you there. So this shows that actually in the 1800s, the company, it was called the Toronto Street Railway. They ran the horse-drawn streetcars. Well, in the wintertime, there was a lot of snow on the streets, and they actually would roll out these sleighs They're kind of like bus sleighs to keep transit moving when there's when there's too much snow. And I call these things shuttle sleighs because these days, whenever our subway breaks down, we have shuttle buses that come out to keep people moving. So in those days, whenever the streetcars were blocked by snow, the shuttle sleighs would come out to keep transit moving.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Huh. Pretty nifty. I didn't even know that, man. I didn't know, man. And it's good that you're spreading this out because this is an old history, like an old, like even like a hieroglyphic, or a language that nobody even uses anymore. So it's good to see this stuff.
Well, so this photo here is a street scene. So here we've got all the new horse-drawn streetcars around the street. And right in the middle there, in that brown omnibus, that's Mr. Williams' omnibus. So he's actually trying to compete with this new company because it was in 1861 the Toronto Street Railway Company popped up and started running horse-drawn streetcars. They were competing with Mr. Williams' omnibus line. So this is kind of him in the midst of his business. This is him competing for business in the streets of Toronto.
Ah, okay, okay. That had to be tough back then because you figure that's that's how these folks make a living and their lifestyle, which was kind of expensive. You take your upkeep on the horses and your upkeep on the carts or the carriages, and then you get the locomotive technology that steps in, and can do what they do a little bit faster. It has to have high tensions. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Although I will point out, locomotives, that's like a train, right? These were still horse-drawn streetcars. Actually, what they had, their competitive edge was by them, the streetcars, by being on rails, they didn't get stuck in the muddy streets. And also, rails reduce rolling resistance, meaning one horse could pull a big streetcar with lots of paying passengers versus the two horses you need to pull a small bus through the muddy streets.
Oh, gotcha. Wow, man, that's quite a nice layout, man. It's a quite a nice layout for an old fashioned town, man. It's a real nice layout you have. So tell us about the Toronto Transportation Commission.
All right. Well, the Toronto Transportation Commission, also known as the TTC, is the current. Well, it is the current company that runs public transit in Toronto. Now, when they were founded in 1921, they were called the Toronto Transportation Commission. In the 50s, they rebranded themselves as the Toronto Transit Commission. I guess transit was more modern than transportation. Now, these two buses here are sisters. Number 1 and number 2 from 1921. They were double deckers with open tops. Now, these two Lego models have actually gone through some drastic rebuilds since this photo. The color schemes have changed because when these buses first came out, they were actually a dark red and yellow.
Okay.
So one of them, number 2, is now dark red and yellow, and number 1, it's actually based off a bus that still exists today that was preserved. But the real one is red and cream. I kind of changed all the white parts out with tan color parts to make it look more like the real one. So it's a bit of an outdated photo, but I mean, I still really like these buses.
Yeah. Huh. All right. They look good, man. They look good. They look real good. And I think you should, actually, try to work up some way to trying to put these in production. Maybe that'll help you with some type of revenue, because I'm sure you'll have some collectors trying to get their hands on these models that you have.
Yeah, maybe. I think even kids would like these.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so you're at another event. Tell us about this event that you're at.
Yeah, so this was also September 2016. I was at Todd Morton Mill's historic site. It's an old mill in Toronto. It's a functioning museum. And every year they have a harvest festival. So they invited me out to this event. And yeah, this is my setup. This is a table. I've got 3 of my streetcars were motorized for this. They drove on the tracks around it. actually this large poster that says Toronto Transit on it. That is a timeline of public transit's history in Toronto. So I basically like cut out photos of the real ones and laid them out on the timeline, and that's a poster I still sell.
Okay. Okay.
And you also notice my outfit, it's yellow and maroon like the old streetcars.
Oh, streetcars. Right. Right. Okay. Okay.
I dressed.
See, yeah, you definitely dressed the part, man, and I think that's what you know, kind of gives you that charisma, you know, that you got. You know, you definitely. I mean, I hate that, for lack of a better term, you're selling this whole concept by actually getting into character, you know, and you know, spreading the word about the transit history. All right, so now you have was it the Beltline and Queen Street? Can you tell us a little bit of history about that?
Okay, so well, this was actually on display. This is outside of Toronto. This is at the Hamilton Makers Fair at the Hamilton Museum of Steam and Technology. So this was a large display I did. Now these two vehicles right there, number 327 and number 280, these are both from the 1890s. They're based on real vehicles. They're streetcars that ran in Toronto. They were run by the Toronto Railway Company. So this was the very early days of electric streetcars. They didn't have windshields, so the drivers had to stand out front in all sorts of nasty weather. You know, snow, rain, wind. Didn't matter. That was their job. And you'll notice, so number 327 has a headlight and a people catcher. But number 280 have a headlight or a people catcher. That's how they were originally built. So headlights, windshields, all that came later after these vehicles. Now, Queen Street is a large street in Toronto. So if you live in Toronto, you would know Queen Street quite well. So that one streetcar ran on Queen Street. Beltline. Now, Beltline was actually a route that basically ran the outside of Toronto as a big square. So there were no streets called Beltline. The Beltline meant it wrapped around Toronto like a belt.
Ah, gotcha. All right, so I look at this table here. You have your beautiful, you know, transit line here. The buses and the trains and the trolleys. But you also have one of your stations here. Is that a train station? What is that? What is that modular that you have in the middle of that table?
Okay, well, first thing, this was actually my first public exhibit of my Lego model. So this was May 20th for Doors Open Toronto. This was actually at the TTC's Leslie Barnes, which is the big streetcar station. But that building in the middle there, there's actually a sign on it, and it says Toronto Transit Museum. And the idea was this was my pop-up museum. Now, that building is actually based on a real building that's very close to where I am right now. It's called the Campbell Block, and it's a building in the West Toronto Junction, which is my neighborhood. And it's a building from 1884. So I actually built that. That was one of the first things I built when I got into this in 2015. You know, I did 2 streetcars, and then I did that building. So that building's been torn down by now, although I kind of miss it. And looking at this picture kind of makes me want to rebuild it. But yeah, it's a historic building, and it's labeled as a museum in that photo. And this is my first exhibit.
It's awesome, man. That building is awesome, man. you need that definitely need to go back up. Yeah, man. That's awesome layout, man. Very, very innovative, man.
Thank you.
All right. This is a closer shot of your line you have here.
Yeah, so this is now 2017 again. So this is almost a year after that last picture you just showed. And in that time, you know, I had built a lot more vehicles. So these 5 here, they're all TTC vehicles from the none of them are from the 1800s. But from left to right, we have a Peter Witt streetcar, a PCC streetcar, a Gloucester subway, a CLRV streetcar, and the brand new Flexity streetcar.
Okay.
Now these are the ones that people are the most fans of. Now I will say they've had a bit of work done on them since. So they don't
Mm-hmm.
all look the same, especially the red subway in the middle has gotten a bit of upgrade since.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm really proud of these models.
Definitely look great, man. They look great, man. You're setting the benchmark pretty high, man. Here's another look. See, I like that. I like that you take your models and you find a picture or a backdrop. You find one, and that right there looks like you're taking somebody back into the future. It does. And maybe that's your photography skills working at the same time too. But yeah, this layout, this photo right here looks great.
Thank you. So actually, this image is actually on a postcard that I sell at
Hmm.
shop. There's a few shops in Toronto that sell this postcard now, so you can buy
Hmm.
it. But yeah, this is essentially the 4 generations of TTC streetcars,
Hmm.
and they're on Queen Street, and that clock tower in the background is our old city hall.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Let's see what we have here. Tell us what we have right here.
Well, this is another postcard. So I have 2 postcard designs, and this is the other one. This is
Okay.
Toronto's newest streetcar facing Toronto's first horse-drawn streetcar. So kind of an old versus new thing.
Uh-huh.
These are A Street. That clock tower once again is Old City Hall, and there's an old wooden streetcar as a part of the background image. But I really like this because it shows how far we've come from horse-drawn streetcars to these brand new LRVs. The technology has come a long way, and that's kind of like the main message I've been trying to push. People don't realize how far we've come, and this image I think kind of shows that.
Right. Right. A little, the past meets the new. Yeah, definitely, man. All right. Tell us about the junction to Runnymede 40 bus. Was it this bus 40, right?
Yep. So this bus I actually ride all the time, the Junction 40 bus. In fact, I actually took it
Hmm.
home today. That's why I chose that. So the Junction
Okay.
is the neighborhood that I live in,
Hmm.
and Junction's actually it used to be its own town. It was a railroad junction. That's where the road comes from.
Hmm.
The word junction.
Yeah.
So Runnymede is another the street at the western boundaries of the junction. So this bus route I'm very fond of because I grew up on it. And this bus itself, so it's known as an Orion 7 hybrid electric bus. And you'll see on the front it's got a bike rack.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So this bus, this something I've ridden on the real one many times.
Wow. The craftsmanship is definitely remarkable on these buses here. So tell us about the 2766 here, which is obviously you're at a train exhibition here. And tell us because we see the inspiration that you had from yours to that. Tell us the history about this and how you came about actually mocking up this.
Yeah, well, actually, this is not at a train exhibition. This is
Okay.
this is actually at the TTC's streetcar garage. Well,
Ah.
bus garage. It's called the Hillcrest Plaza. So this is actually
Hmm.
not open to the public. I actually had to email and get permission for them to let me in.
Wow.
Now, number 2766, it's a
Hmm.
Peter Witt streetcar from 1923, and that's the
Hmm.
real one. And, it's been restored, so it's fully operational. It comes out for parades and stuff.
Okay.
And so that's actually my Lego version in front of it, number 2424. Now, my Lego Peter Witt streetcar is actually pulling a trailer behind it. So that's the second little version of itself behind it. It's a trailer that it
Okay.
would pull. So I actually brought these two out to the garage and put them in front of the real one to take this picture.
Hmm.
And there's actually also a video you'll see on my Facebook and Instagram of it driving out in front of the real one. So there's
Ah.
a
Okay.
lot of in one photo.
Right. Man.
You'll also
Yeah. I think it's.
notice the driver of the streetcar is lit up because there are lights in the cab of the streetcar.
Yes, I do see that. Yep. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, this thing is spot on with that, man. Wow. Yeah. Let's see. All right. All right. So this is that that building that we saw from afar that was on your table, right?
Yeah. So actually, this photo was 1 week before my first exhibit back
Mm-hmm.
in May of 2016. So this was
Mm-hmm.
me preparing for it. And you'll actually notice the streetcar on the very right. That's my Peterwood streetcar before I rebuilt it to what it looks like today. So you
Ah,
can
yeah.
see it's got a different windshield to it. It's skinnier.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I've also got the double-decker bus. So a lot of the vehicles in this picture have been rebuilt, except for the long red Flexity one on the left there. That one's still the same. But all these other
Okay.
ones have been rebuilt in some way. But yeah, this picture that was right before the first time I brought these out for the public to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Looks like you're someplace fun, man. Where are you?
So this was actually at the CNE that I've mentioned a few times, the Canadian National Exhibition.
Yeah.
Now, this little house behind me, it's actually Toronto's oldest house. It was built
Mm-hmm.
in the 1790s.
Okay.
So wrap your head around that. The 1790s, not even 1800s.
Right.
That house
Right.
built in the 1790s. It's called the Scatting Cabin, and it's a museum at the CNE grounds. And they had invited me to do an exhibit out front of the museum during the CNE. So that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing there. I've got the table, I've got all my vehicles, I've got the top hat, and yeah, you know what? It was a cool event.
Yeah. Wow. Man, that's history right there. 1700s, huh?
1790s, man.
All right. So we're looking at a part of your collection. Some of these we saw in here, but as you can see, that there's you have cars here that are very detailed, and each one tells a history of its time.
Yeah, so all these vehicles that you'll see here are all based on real vehicles from the 1800s.
Hmm.
The top left one is from 1849, and the bottom right one is from 1899.
Okay.
This is also when I first got shelves in my apartment, so this is actually only a few months ago.
Okay.
I actually have more shelves since, but yeah, these are all my, not all, but these are a lot of my Victorian era Lego vehicles.
Okay. All right. And here
Okay,
we're seeing that the I guess the time from the builds are getting later, like you're reaching a different part of the timeline here. Tell us what we're looking at.
yeah, so this is actually when I had more shelves added.
Hmm.
Now, as I pointed out earlier, when you show that picture of the two red double-decker buses,
Hmm.
well, you can see this photo that at the top left there, one of them's getting a rebuild. So it still has some red parts to it, but
Hmm.
it's mostly maroon and yellow in that photo.
Okay.
Now, today it's completely rebuilt, but at the top, those are my 1920s buses. In the middle, I've got a Peter Witt and the Gloucester subway, and
Hmm.
at the bottom is the new flexible LRV.
All right. Tell us about this event that you spoke at right here. That you're
Yeah, so
dropping the knowledge on it.
yeah, I was dropping the knowledge there.
Hmm.
This was one of their retirement home presentations in September of 2017.
Hmm.
Uh, I forget exactly which one that was because I did a bunch of presentations in September. But yeah, so I had a whole audience of the retired folks. And so I have my PowerPoint presentation up on the screen there. In front of me, I've got a selection of my Lego vehicles. So not all of them, but kind of a nice selection. And also, I have an old bus fare collector, a fare box, as you can see on the table there.
Yeah, I
That
see.
big,
Yeah.
big metal thing.
Hmm.
That's an old fare box from a real TTC bus.
Okay. Wow. How'd you get your hands on one of those?
So actually, funny story. Um, back back in the summer, I actually got interviewed by CTV Television, so a big news station in Toronto.
Hmm.
And one lady, I guess, was watching the news, and she saw me, and so she searched me up on the internet, and she found me, and she gave me a call,
Hmm.
and she told me that Trev, like I saw you on the TV, I'm really impressed with what you're doing. I actually have all this old transit stuff that I got from my dad before he passed away, and she said she wanted me to have it. So she actually gave that to me and a bunch of other stuff.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was
See
very
that?
happy.
Yeah, man. That's success, man. All right. All right. I love to see. I love to hear good stories like that. You know, I do. Tell us about this establishment. Just you're standing in front of, and the gentleman you're standing with.
Yeah, so actually, this was another presentation I did at the Lambton House. So the Lambton House is a museum. It's a historic hotel. It was built in the 1800s, and now it's a museum in Toronto. So as you see, I've got my full outfit. Now the guy on the right, his name is Dave Rygate. He was like a co-host of mine for one of those presentations. So he actually volunteers at the Streetcar Museum outside of Toronto. He's been there for 25 years. So that outfit he's wearing, that's his outfit. That is the classic streetcar operator outfit. And he's an expert in transit. In fact, he actually knows more than I do.
Okay.
So so he's very helpful with these presentations. Yeah, you know what? He's been great to have out. He's been to a few of my presentations. He's quite the expert on these. And yeah, that was a pretty cool presentation we did at that museum.
Oh, okay, okay. All right.
So this
where you at in this picture here?
Yeah, this one was actually only a few days ago. This was actually January 3rd of this year. It's only like 5 days ago.
Okay.
For a presentation I did for a retirement home. And as you can see there, I'm holding a vintage bus, one of the ones I made out of Lego. And then on the screen there is a picture of one of the real double-decker buses in Toronto.
Okay.
And yeah, so this is kind of like one of my typical presentations here. You know, I've got my laptop with all my content. I've got a selection of Lego videos and Lego models on the table. And yeah, you know what? It was quite fun.
It's awesome. Yeah. Definitely successful. Definitely. You down in the subway. Where you at over here?
Okay, so this is actually a pretty cool one too. So this was actually just in December of last year. So this is actually in Lower Bay Station. So Bay is a subway station in Toronto. It's very well used. But below the subway station is this platform, and this is abandoned. Well, like it's not used by the public. So it's actually only used by the TTC for equipment testing and movie shoots. The public go down there. So I got down there because I emailed them and told them I want to make a video down there. And they said, well, absolutely, we'll bring you down. So they brought me down, and I'm holding one of the old red subways that did drive through here at one point. Yeah. And Yorkville is actually just a neighborhood of Toronto. That Bay and Bloor is at. That's where this is located.
Okay. All right, so where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook. There's Transit Bricks. I'm on Instagram under Transit Bricks. My website is toronto.transitbricks.com. You can email me if you have any questions. It's trevorps@transitbricks.com. I will be touring the city for a few more events. And as I mentioned, I'm just getting started. I want to take this worldwide. So I am pretty easy to find.
Okay. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. All right, let me see here. Let's get back here. All right, and we're back to you. All right. Wanted to give you one more question before I let you go. The Trevor today hops in, I don't know, a locomotive, a time traveling locomotive, right? And you fast forward to 30 years from now, and you see the older you. The older you has done quite well for himself. He's very successful. In fact, you're probably a director of a transit authority somewhere, maybe New York City. And And so, what do you tell this successful Trevor? What do you tell him?
Well, I don't know, because I feel like it's the successful Trevor from the future that would want to tell me something. If that makes sense. I feel like he'd have a lot to tell me. He'd probably tell me, persist on what you're doing, because then you'll get where I am today. I don't really know what I would tell him. I think I'd just be more happy to see where the future me has wound up.
Yep.
I'd probably just tell him, how happy I am to see that my ideas really pay off in the long run.
All right. Good stuff, man. Good stuff, man. Definitely good stuff, man. I appreciate you coming down to the Icebox and hanging with me. And the work that you do is quite remarkable. Another gentleman, he's out of a small town in Pennsylvania, and his name is Naders Mox, and he does transit. Like, he does a lot of train mocks and stuff like that. And so, looking down at your mocks and the stuff that you brought today, man, you guys are in a league of your own. You guys are definitely making waves. And I just love the work that you do, man. And even that you're taking it to the streets, man. You're definitely out there in the community. And I'm listening to your stories, and the community is definitely receptive to you, because of your charisma. Remind yourself, because you're a young guy. When you remind yourself from 40 years from now, if you got to put it down on a sticky note, always keep that ambition that you have and that drive you have. Because sometimes we get successful and we forget about those things. So never forget about that.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I won't forget.
Yep. Hey, folks, that is the episode of On the Icebox with Iceberg Bricks. My guest was Trevor Transit Bricks. You can catch him on Facebook. You can catch him on Instagram. Email him. He's very receptive, very open, and he's a community guy, folks. So definitely throw a bug in his ear and ask the guy some questions. Very approachable guy. My guest next week will be United Bricks out of the UK. We'll take a look at the bricks from a different perspective, as a seller, as a custom seller. So I'm definitely looking forward to that interview as well. All right, folks, I bid you peace, love, and Lego. Have a good night. Say good night.
Good night.